All right, everybody, welcome. It's Matt, the apoplectic atheist, and myself, the belligerent atheist. We're going to be talking about marriage tonight and the SCOTUS decision today. I know that I'm pretty sure Matt is in agreement with me. I am proud to be an American today. Even if we are the 25th country in the world, I think that, it took us a long time to get here, but I'm proud to say that through all the arduous work, that all the little things that many people, allies, and LGBTIQ individuals have put into this movement to step forward. It has paid off. It really has, and I'm very proud today that this has gone forward. So tonight, I'd kind of like to just talk about it a little bit. This is so momentous. I'm really excited. I'm just excited. That's it. So, Matt, what do you think, man?
Yeah, dude, this is like awesome. It kind of took me by surprise. I had heard that SCOTUS or whatever might be ruling on this, and I didn't know the date when it would happen, and just like came out of the blue, and I'm like, wait a minute, what did I miss? Like, what is going on? Just like my internet's exploding today. But yeah, it's pretty awesome. Like I said, I don't know a lot about it. I wish I knew more, but I'm wondering how this affects state laws. I guess, we're going to go into that, but, you know what I mean? Do states have to follow it or not, or what kind of backlash there's going to be? But yeah, it's definitely an amazing step in the right direction.
Yeah, I think what they're talking about is that states have to recognize, states have to recognize marriage, any marriage of any state. So it's no longer, there's no such thing as gay marriage anymore. It's just marriage, which is really awesome. So I think the states have to recognize the marriage, all rights and all privileges that come with marriage have to be recognized. Now, the SCOTUS has said absolutely nothing about forcing anyone to marry anyone else. That's not the thing. Clergy can still choose to not marry anybody they don't want to, but I mean that's just it. Clerks are to issue out marriage certificates, even if the Adjutant General of Texas says to hold off, which he did this morning. The AG of Texas said to hold off on issuing marriage certificates, and all of his clerks pretty much gave him the fuck you, which I'm really proud of. That's really awesome. So, I mean, the clerks are issuing, and it comes down to judges or other individuals that are ordained through any number of churches that are authorized federally or in that state, I should say. They're licensed to perform marriage. It's just that the marriage has to be recognized. So if you got married in Washington, you LGBTIQ or whatever, no matter who you are, if you're married in Washington, they have to recognize it in Texas.
Oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah,
Um,
I live in Massachusetts, and they've had legalized gay marriage for a while now. So
yeah, I'm really excited. Being in the South, I am very, very excited that this is a new thing. I know a lot of people in the entire community that it's just, it doesn't mean everyone's going to go out and get married. It's just that the option is there. You know, I'm glad that so many people that I know, so many people that I'm proud to call friend, are
yeah,
able to be happy and to live their life as they desire to. You know, they're not held back by anybody.
I mean, as it's been said, not by I don't know greater men than me, but I forget who exactly said it originally. But it's not about special privilege for these people. It's about equality. They're finally equal. You know what I'm saying? It's like I don't know. It's just great.
Yeah, and we have a lot of way. There's a lot of things we still have to do. There's a million little steps that we have to make for equality in this country to make everything equal. But as the President of the United States, President Barack Obama, said today, our union is a little more perfect today.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't hear him talk.
Yeah, he had a 9-minute video right after SCOTUS made the decision. And some of the highlights were that he said that we take sometimes in these journeys, we'll take 2 steps forward and 1 step back, and sometimes the journeys are long and arduous. but sometimes all of our work is rewarded by a thunderbolt of progress. And he said that's what today was. Today was a thunderbolt of progress to make our union a little more perfect.
So here's my question: what role did? Sorry, I'm really ignorant of politics. I just don't. I don't know. I have no excuse. But what role did the president actually play in this at all? If you could explain it to me.
Well, there was some time ago when everyone was calling for the president to veto previous rulings. What the president has been able to do in this process, because a lot of this has gone through court, he has been able to put support behind these initiatives, and he was a part in de-supporting via legislature the Defense of Marriage Act. And the Defense of Marriage Act was a traditional act that continued to prohibit, and I'm going to say that it prohibited marriage equality. It technically didn't. The Defense of Marriage Act pushed the decision to the states, and that in turn, at least in the South, forced the prohibition of marriage equality. But it wasn't that specifically. It just pushed it to the states, and he's given a lot of support in this avenue, but it hasn't been his decision. His administration has always been for it, but it's been down at the state level. So it came down to the Supreme Court of the United States to not only rule in opposition to the Defense of Marriage Act, but also to rule in favor of marriage equality and take it from a state issue, the legality of it, from a state issue to a federal issue, and to make it equal.
All right, cool, thanks.
Yeah, not a problem. As far as the timing, you did bring up earlier that you wasn't aware of the timing. I knew it was going to happen soon, but as far as I know, there wasn't even a published timeline. They said it's going to happen any day now, and all of a sudden I found out this morning that they did rule, and a lot of people are talking about them ruling on marriage equality and making marriage equal to distract from the TPP, which is it's a trade program. Then there's a couple of things that are going through right now. We're basically, and I could be very wrong, and I appreciate if anyone comments on the chat or corrects me, because I would love it. But there are some programs going through or attempted to be going through right now about if corporations' dividends or profits are encumbered by the United States government, that those corporations can sue the government. So there's stuff like that going through right now that people think that, I wonder how the government's trying to screw us over while we're all debating the Confederate flag and also allowing gays to get married.
Yeah, I wish. Yeah, it's happened so fast. I got to read up more on this. So does this counteract the Defense of Marriage Act? Is that like null now, or
well, the Defense of Marriage Act has actually been opposed for quite some time. DOMA.
Oh.
DOMA was struck down months ago, and that was a really huge deal. They said that we were waging war on the institution of marriage, and we were crumbling the institution of marriage by DOMA.
Oh, okay.
We took DOMA out of the picture, and that's what allows states to continue to make marriage equal in that state. But there was still a huge hole lacking in.
Yeah, I remember all the conservatives were up in arms about gay marriage, but I mean, that's pretty usual. They're always like bitching about that, so I didn't realize it was tied to the DOMA thing. But yeah, it's kind of funny. I heard a little bit about the Defense of Marriage Act, how it was signed into a law by Bill Clinton. So I don't know. It's like the Republicans always hate Democrats, but there's one thing that like Bill Clinton did for them, and I don't know. You never see them like whatever. They're just so jingoistic about it, but whatever.
Today, about 10 or 11 a.m. Central CDT, I believe Josh Feuerstein posted a 3-minute and 25-second video on how marriage equality and how SCOTUS's decision signals the end times for the Christian apocalypse.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched the
What?
video. I've listed some comments. Several people that I know have made some hateful comments on that video. I wanted, I guess the word hateful isn't the word I want to use. I'm going to say critical. We've been very critical of these comments.
I think I hear Buck kind of faintly.
Yeah.
Oh, he's in.
Sir Jewelot, thank you for joining us. Have you heard what's going on so far, man?
I haven't been able to hear anything yet, so what are you guys talking about?
You sound a little messed up. I don't know what's going on. But
Oh, okay. Let's try this again.
I think you're just try getting close to the mic, maybe, or I don't know.
I don't know where the mic is on this thing.
You sounded good.
That sounds a lot better, so stay right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So right now, so far we've discussed GOP distraction, like everyone's saying it's the Christian beginning of the Christian apocalypse. They're distracting. They're using the SCOTUS decision and the Confederate flag as a distraction for things like the TPP. We've talked about what actually it is and how it doesn't infringe, how it opposes state law. It takes the state decision away, but it doesn't force preachers to actually marry anyone, but it does allow clerks and others to marry, and marriage is not authorized but acknowledged in every state.
Yeah, right. So what I got out of the decision today is it follows in a long line of decisions that have provided civil rights in interpreting the 14th Amendment to create a new class of people who get these rights. And certainly the decisions that they cite are very classic in this sense. They have Loving West Virginia, which allowed mixed-race couples to get married. They have Griswold, Connecticut, which allowed couples to use contraception, and so on. And so these cases certainly have led up to this. I'm not sure that it's necessarily the natural conclusion, but it is a very pro-civil rights conclusion, which is a good thing. I understand where the dissent comes from, in that usually matters of morality are left up to the states constitutionally, but that again ignores the long history of the 14th Amendment being used as the tool to enforce civil rights.
Yeah, but it wasn't just that. It wasn't that they're going I see what you're saying about the dissent, but they didn't. The only thing they took away from the state was the ability to say it's illegal.
Right. No, and that's generally what is done with the 14th Amendment. That's what was done with all sorts of racial laws before. And what was done in Texas and Colorado before with laws that were discriminatory against the gay populations. But that is what the dissent means. That is, very Scalia territory to go to states' rights. But of course he went further, and some of his quotes in there will stand the test of time as the great infamous quotes from the court. Like, if you're the Dred Scott decision, it's not quite at that point, but it's not good. So it's a very interesting legal precedent. Not one that's totally shocking, but that is the direction the court has been going for a long time now. Not just in civil rights. You may remember 2-3 years ago in McCullough versus Maryland, the court did the same thing with Second Amendment rights, saying that states couldn't disallow people certain to have guns in certain circumstances. So it's, in one way you could say it's more freedoms, but wherever the court decides to draw the line between freedoms and the 10th Amendment between the states and the federal for morality clauses is ultimately arbitrary, and it has come now to mean whatever the court determines to be civil rights, and that's certainly the way Justice Kennedy has swung in these cases. But that's not necessarily what it has to be. So it's nice to see that it is, and that's what this ruling has determined. And certainly it's unlikely to be overturned in that way. But this sort of, as one of the culminating cases of the LGBT movement, well, of the LG part of the movement, anyways, we go to the sort of next big civil rights movement that we have, and I think that's looking like it's going to be the transgender movement. And I don't know what legal challenges those present necessarily in terms of states denying people whatever, but there's no guarantee in the current system for the 14th Amendment to keep applying this way. So it is through sort of these social aspects, political aspects of these fights that we get these rulings, because as the dissent points out, it's not necessarily the law to do it this way. So there's my thoughts on it.
Well, I don't disagree, certainly, but as President Obama said today, is that it's up to each generation to continue to progress the United States as to and reevaluate what the Constitution says in regards to equality and all men are created equal, and to continue to review that statement and to review what equality means, and to continue to redefine our nation to meet today's societal and cultural standards. So while I can see where in the past that could be kind of something that people would be upset about, it's that's no longer where we are. That's not where society is, and that 14th Amendment is no longer is no longer. I'm not going to use the word applicable, but it's not equal anymore. Because what that 14th Amendment is being used for is to oppress others, which is exactly the opposite of what the Constitution is meant to do. It's meant to liberate everybody. And when we're using amendments against others to hold them back, and that's exactly what he's talking about, moving everything forward, and to reassess not only I'm not going to say reassess our values, because our values are fairly the same. It's to reassess what those words mean, and to redefine our culture so that it is inclusive, not exclusive.
I would disagree with the point that the Constitution is there to give people liberties. I mean, that would be nice, but the Constitution is just how the government is run. I mean, it can be however society decides to create it. But certainly with the social movement that you had been mentioning, throughout the 20th and 21st centuries, it has become a way to preserve civil rights, and I think that's a good use of it. But certainly that's not to say that that's what the Constitution is for. I would disagree. there are other countries whose constitutions are for that. If you look at the German Constitution, it's all about that. But ours is not, I don't think.
I mean, I think we're going to have to probably agree to disagree. I think possibly we're working into a semantics argument, where we could say that the same exact rules are either meant to use the word liberate or restrict, and by liberating, we're removing restrictions. And I think we're working ourselves into a semantics corner. So I'm just going to agree to disagree on this point.
Okay. I don't know. I'm just working it from the lawyer's point of view, I suppose. My extremely liberal and wanting everything to be free and civil sort of position.
Well, I want everyone to be free and equal. I guess if that's liberal, you can call it that. I just figured we were painting ourselves into a corner where we're discussing the semantics of the argument, and we're pretty much on the same page. We're just discussing the words we used to get there. But what I would like to take a look at, because I know that we pretty much feel the same, is how some of the fundies feel. We have some GOPers that are pretty strong. And this is a great thing, and it's amazing, but I would also like to examine some of the atrocities that are coming out of the mouths of our enemies for a moment.
Well, there's that pastor who claims he's going to set himself on fire. I'm sure you're like that. I'll buy tickets to see that.
I'm not saying that I want to see it because I want to see him physically hurt. Because I don't. I think that...
No, I just want to see somebody who's that dumb set themselves on fire. I don't want to see anybody in pain. But
yeah, I don't want to see him in pain necessarily. That's not what I'm out. But if he's willing to do that kind of extreme behavior, it's almost kind of sad to me, really, that someone is willing to go that far out on the ledge. But there are people that said that they wanted to move to Canada, which is also funny to me because, you know, marriage is equal in Canada. And there are people that said that they're going to light themselves on fire, people that said they're going to get divorced. I don't know how you think that this affects. It doesn't affect anyone but you.
It's like the adult version of a temper tantrum.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But then you have some of those like Mike Huckabee, Ted Cruz, Bobby Jindal, our presidential candidates. These individuals are have not only stated previously that they're running, but that they will continue to oppose the SCOTUS decision on marriage equality, and they will continue to fight it with every dying breath as far as they can take it. Now, I wish I knew a little bit more about this, and Buck, you're usually smarter in this aspect than I am. So I'm going to pose to you a question. What exactly can they do? I'm not going to use the word repeal the decision, but what can they do to fight it, and is it a viable fight that they can actually perform?
Well, this is the old separation of powers arguments, and with the check on the Supreme Court is with the legislature. And with the legislature, you can pass a law that would be much like DOMA and would sort of get rid of this, sort of put a new standard in. And they can always legislate a new standard if they have the votes for that. But then it can go up through the courts again and get, shot down again, and I'm sure it would be. So, that's really where they're at.
But do you think the states have any ground to stand on in suing the government to regain their rights?
No. Think of it this way. The way that the decision today has been worded, if a state tried to outlaw interracial marriage, it would be on the same footing right now as if it tried to outlaw gay marriage, according to the decision.
Sorry about that. Thanks. I can't say that I'm too much further on my understanding. I wish I was on that aspect of it. But I mean, this is kind of like one of those they can add to but they can't take away from scenarios, as far as I understand. So what kind of legislature could they pose to make it more difficult on the issuance and the legality of marriage equality, since they're not going to be able to adequately revoke the decision?
Well, something that I had seen not that long ago is to just make it more difficult for everybody to get married, in sort of a yick-woe kind of way, to make the process as seem that it's still equal, but to apply it in a way that's unequal, very much like a lot of the racial discrimination we see still from governments today. It'll just be through misapplication of the process.
So you think that they'll try to legislate some type of marriage counseling through like some type of religious institution, and then allows the religious institution to refuse because of religious practice, because we're not going to say they can't do that. But do you think that they'll try to legislate some sort of, in the South anyways, try to legislate some sort of religious counseling and marriage counseling as a premarital requirement through a religious institution to make it more difficult?
No, that would be completely unconstitutional as well. And because
we don't have a good history of that, and I didn't mean to jump in and to interrupt you, but we don't have a good history of being constitutional in the last 5 decades.
Well, we don't have a good history of being constitutional ever. People just kind of do what they want. But I would say that would be very difficult, and I'm sure they can concoct various measures, but there's been, over time, a lot of measures that states have tried to put in to restrict marriage between certain kinds of people, and they all get shot down. So while they can make a temporary measure by just trying to pass a law that's obviously unconstitutional, it would be difficult to have some of the suggestions that you posited in question. I think that you could do something like either get the state out of marriage as a whole. It would be one way of states not sanctioning the same-sex couples, so they don't have to deal with it as a political issue. Or you could, on the other hand, probably do something like make some sort of test or other standard for people who want to get married. Like, it would be very similar to the poll tax and the poll tests they used in the South to get African Americans out of the ballot box. So yeah, there's a few possibilities.
Cool. Well, thanks. Thanks for going over that a little better. I've been looking for a specific meme that I saw earlier that I thought was funny, and it was I'm just gonna have to describe it. So it's a picture of Ruth Bader Ginsburg sitting. She had a red curtain behind her. She was sitting in her comfy chair, and she had a teacup held up in front of her face, and it was filled with Scalia's tears. So I thought that was pretty hilarious. I haven't been able to find it, and I'm kind of disappointed. I wish that I could, but unfortunately I'm not able to.
Scalia is such a throwback to like the 50s and olden times, like
Yeah, like the Mad Men kind of thing.
yeah,
You know, where everything was like completely not. I'm not going to just say inappropriate, but where everything was disproportionate to reality.
yeah. No, and he's still very much in that waspy mindset of the world. You know, like if it ain't normal, you can't be doing it, kind of thing.
Right, right. Apoplectic. We haven't heard from you in a minute.
Yeah, this isn't really my cup of tea here, all this fucking political talk stuff, but I don't really have a comment.
Oh, one of my thoughts that I've had in recent days is how this highlights the differences between Catholics and Protestants, because we often note how Christian our country is, but mostly that's Protestant. And so with that, you have candidates like Mike Huckabee disagree with the Pope. And people say, oh, how are you doing that? Well, that's part of the Catholic-Protestant divide. And, you know, for the longest time, Catholic countries, and still today, many Catholic countries are further behind than Protestant countries when it came to a lot of these civil rights. But there's, with this new Pope especially, been a swing the other way on that. And you have things like Ireland voting for same-sex marriage. And Ireland is as Catholic as they come. And so you have that situation where there's a much larger percentage of the population in the Christian fold that is leaning, beginning to lean a different way. That, along with the fast-growing demographics from Central and South America that are mostly Catholic as well, you're going to have yourself a bit of a demographic change away from those waspy types.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, man. I haven't actually thought about the relation of what religions versus the strictness of marriage itself. I'm gonna have to admit, you kind of got me on that one.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, and that's probably something I thought I would have thought of. But you got me. You got me on a 0-day attack. But I do have the list of countries with the freedom to marry in order. So there's the Netherlands, which was April 1st, 2001. Seemed to be number 1. Then there's Belgium and Spain, which is Spain is pretty religious.
Very. But
Yeah.
it's,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, but it's Catholic, and that's sort of the way that it's turning. I mean, being in Europe also makes them a lot more open. But
Our current pope, I say our liberally as like the world's current pope, of course, not actually Catholic. That pretty much negates being the atheist part of belligerent. But there's Pope Francis. He's a little bit more liberal than previous ones, but you know what? I like him most of the time, and then every once in a while I have to hate him because he'll just say something so dumb that it's like it came out of Josh Feuerstein's mouth.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the Catholic theology, though.
Yeah.
He hasn't strayed from the basic theology. He's just sort of.
No, it's just that from time to time we'll be like, hey, I think breastfeeding is awesome and blasey, 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 everyone breastfeed in church because that's a standard thing. And then he'll be like, I hate, blah, blah. I don't even know. I can't even. I can't even right now.
No, I mean that's true. But I think for the most part, he's doing a lot of stuff better, certainly than this last one. Benedict was, terrible for the church. But certainly coming back to the days of John Paul, when at least the Pope was a fairly respected position. But to do that nowadays, you have to be more on the side of civil rights in the first world, because that's where the polling is headed. And so I think it's only natural for him in a position to try to reestablish the position of the church that he would have to come more to this way, although I do think it is in his nature to do so.
I could kind of see that, and that would kind of explain some of the countries on the list that I pulled up for everyone to see. I just brought it up real quick. You see South Africa, Norway, Sweden, which actually they developed a third. Is that feedback? Can you mute your mic, Buck? Sorry, I was getting some weird feedback. I apologize. They're just coming out of the speaker and going on the mic. So that our new pope, where you can see how marriage equality could actually be in effect in some of these countries, it kind of makes a little bit more sense. I was talking about Sweden, where Sweden actually created a third personal pronoun, gender non-specific. So there's male, female, and then there's a third, like androgynous, more like an androgyne, I guess. In Swedish, which I thought was really awesome. There's Portugal, Iceland, Argentina, Denmark, Brazil, France, which is usually fairly liberal, but also they're fairly religious. Uruguay, New Zealand, United Kingdom, Luxembourg, Finland. We already talked about Ireland, which both shocked and made me proud. But and then there's the United States, which this hasn't been updated, but we're still actually waiting on Mexico for regional freedom in some places. But this list is very hopeful. So, I mean, we have a lot of good stuff here, and I'm very proud of us that we continue to move forward as a human race. There's still a lot to do, even just in the United States. There's still a lot to do. I mean, just talking about liberties. I'm not even talking about in the rest of the world. But I think we're making a lot of good progress.
Yeah, certainly. If you look at that map you had up, I think you could put a very strong correlation on the relationship between the rights for homosexuals to get married and education.
Sorry, I had to pull it back up again, but there you go. Here's the map, and I'll make it bigger so that we can see a little better.
Yeah, I mean,
talk about it real quick.
Yeah, I mean, these are all countries with a very Western way of thinking and have more urban population that are going in this direction. We haven't seen this in, say, places that aren't even part of the monotheist tradition. Like, you don't see this in Japan, even though Japan's a very urbanized society. It's very much a westernized movement, more so in the more urbanized places. And as you can even see in the map of Europe, the further you get towards sort of Soviet land, you get less and less rights. even though Germany's usually pretty good on rights, they have a very strong portion of their population that's very conservative. They're very Protestant as well. So they have a different approach. They're not, getting their advice from the Pope. So, yeah, there's a lot of that.
Right. No, you're right, especially about. I mean, there's actually parts of the world that's still illegal. I know Russia has some pretty serious bans. It's a very Asian thing, Eastern European and Asian. And Moose Gal asked in the chat, did we see the tweets Brian Fisher made? Actually, I have not. Yeah, Brian Fisher's she goes on to describe Brian Fisher, the former director of issues analysis for the American Family Association. He hosts a talk show radio program, Focal Point, on American Family. I really appreciate Moose Gal jumping in here and making comments. It's really progressed and really added to the conversation as well. I'm going to be honest, I haven't been up on it as much as I should, but Matt's been commenting with Moose Gal back and forth, and I really do appreciate it. I have not seen the tweets from Brian Fisher. Try and pull it up. This. No, Brian. Sure, AFA. I'm going to guess it's something amazing.
I'm on his. It's at Brian J. Fisher.
Yeah, I know. I just pulled up the AFA.net. Moose Gal, I'm glad you brought it up. Just one of these headlines: Rainbow Jihadists of SCOTUS. I don't even think I need to read it, but I'm going to. I'm going to screen share if you want me to. Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, why not?
All right. So it says, here's. Okay. Well, no.
Actually, this leads into something I wanted to go into really quick. I don't know how much conversation we'll bring into, but I'll, afterwards, let me touch on something.
Yeah, sure. Now, I want to just read a couple minutes, not even a couple minutes, just a couple of sentences, rather. Rainbow Jihadists of SCOTUS blow up twin towers of truth and righteousness. Okay. This is not just offensive. I don't think the word offensive does it justice. I really don't. This is so hateful and ignorant. This is prodigiously ignorant. This is the kind of stuff that I fight all the time, and that I fight it daily. I'm glad Moose Gal brought my attention to it. I hadn't gotten this far, so thanks. But from a moral standpoint, 626 has become our 9/11. This is just horrible. It's horrible that you're relating marriage equality, which is it's not marriage equality, it's just marriage. But you're relating marriage and your warped, horrible, distorted, traditional view of marriage into some jihadist regime, some type of terrorist act. You're saying that the SCOTUS turned, their decision was an act of terrorism against the United States. They did this by imposing sodomy-based marriage in the United States through an act of judicial tyranny. Yeah, thanks, Brian Fisher. Like, the only thing that individuals are interested in is sex. Now, your warped, twisted little brain, that might be all you think of, and for all we know, as homophobic as you just seem to come across in the first couple of sentences, you're probably, self-hating, masochistic, and unfortunately have been psychologically, psycho-emotionally tortured, and are probably gay yourself. And I'm not trying to use that as like an insult to the gay community, but this person, I can't even. I think you might need to save me because I'm about to go on a really horrible rant here, Matt.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but these people use sodomy like it's only gay people who sodomize. Sodomy is anything other than penis and vagina sex. So it could be a hand job, it could be a blow job, it could be armpit job. You know what I mean? So these people act like like homosexuals have you know what I mean, they're the only ones who sodomize.
Right, which I'm glad you brought that up, which completely isn't the case. I guarantee that even his amount of sodomy, like I say, I hate to bash the gay community with Brian Fisher, but I bet that this sodomy that he's getting isn't a hand job or a blow job or an armpit job, as Matt brought up. It's probably something a little bit more traditional in his eyes, and he's probably just ashamed, and I don't know why. I mean, we've proven that this is a beautiful thing, but these people aren't just about sex. It's not. That's saying that all these conservative beliefs that only that gay people, LGBTIQ, that the entire community is only sex-based. And while sex is an important part of a relationship, they're probably just as equally about sex as anyone else, and the relationship is about loving someone else and sharing your love for them with everyone, shouting it from the rooftops. And yes, June 26, 2015 is a date which will live on, but not in infamy, as you claim, but it'll live on as a day of equality, a day that we have moved our country farther towards a more perfect union, and you'll always be remembered, Brian Fisher, as being the wrong fucking point in the fence. You're on the wrong side of the fence, my friend. And he says he saw Satan dancing with delight. He should probably go see a psychiatrist because there's several issues that he needs to address. The gay Gestapo, I can't even, man. I can't even. You guys want to save me from this? You start talking about the gay Gestapo, I'm about to lose my mind.
This is leading into the point I wanted to make, and I'll first say that if anybody's a terrorist, it's this guy. What he is doing is what you do in war. You make the other person out to be a lesser being or an animal, and create this fervor. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know exactly what it's called, but it's like you make your enemy look like they are animalistic and lesser than you to create. To bolster your side, you know what I'm saying? So that leads into a point I want to make is this going to draw attention and these type of people and actually, before it causes a great good, actually potentially cause great harm? Because think about what's happening with the different races in America now and all these shootings. What if this draws the attention of these crazy people like this to backlash and attack more, you know what I mean? More people. I don't know. It's kind of scary to think of, but I'm just scared. You know what I mean? I wonder what's going to happen.
Like a purge type situation?
Well, I mean, there's already a lot of gay bashing going on, and this just draws 10 times more attention to them. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be some kind of backlash, and I sincerely hope it doesn't end in any murders.
I mean, I would like to think that we're better than that.
But think about what this guy is saying, man.
I know.
The stuff that this guy is saying.
I would like to think, given that we have majority moved our country forward, that I mean, I still have it up for a reason, but this is the minority of people that believe the United States was built on the foundation of Judeo-Christian tradition. Okay. Well, most of us know that is not the case. And
no, I completely agree.
A few handful of people. It's people like this that, and I've seen a lot of people arguing about this today, of course. But I've seen a lot of, I'm going to say progressive Christian, moderate. I don't even want to know if I want to use the word moderate, but a lot of progressive Christians that have been combating prodigiously ignorant socio-emotional terrorists like Brian Fisher about his hate speech that he's vomiting online, talking about how he's the reason that people look down on Christians, he's the reason that people look down on conservatives, which is 100% correct. And I try to be more objective when I look at people, but it's people like this that just make me sick. I can't even. A natural marriage. Go to fuck home.
I agree, and it's I'm not worried about the majority. I'm worried about the minority. Think about the South Carolina shooting. It was one nut job. That's all it takes is one nut job to do something crazy and cause, you know what I mean, untold amounts of, you know, of horror. That's what I'm concerned about. And the more people write stuff like this, which is akin to wartime propaganda, the more it's going to give a spark to all these nut jobs, you know what I mean? And it's just going to give them a reason to go out and do something crazy, man. It just worries me.
You're not wrong. I would continue forward. I'm going to stop sharing this now because it's starting to really piss me off. And I'm going to cut it off my screen as well. But those types of people are always looking for the one thing that they can take forward and the one thing that they can use as an excuse to push the line. And I know what you're saying, that there are zealots and fanatics that'll do any of this kind of stuff. But some people are looking for an excuse, and people will always use any type of excuse to move forward.
Oh no, I agree. I'm not saying don't move forward. I'm just saying I'm just worried.
No,
because
I know
it's
that
when big changes happen, that's when when the nut jobs come out, you know.
I know that you're not talking out against progressive action in society. I know that you're not talking about that. I'm just saying that people are always going to use and find any excuse. And with any type of progress that we make as a culture, there are always going to be people that attempt to oppose that and use that in their agenda to further a cause and as an excuse to cause violence. And it's horrible. And I hate that. I hate that completely, but it's something that's always going to happen. It shouldn't happen. I wish it wouldn't, but it's going to, and it does. That's just where we are, I guess. Where we're always going to be. We're always going to be on the edge of that. What do you have any kind of summarized thoughts that you'd like to give, Buck? Did we lose Buck?
Oh, I think you forgot to.
Yeah, we go. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I remember looking at a graph where it showed the relative speed at which different groups attained their civil rights. And that graph showed that these rights were coming into the public consciousness to getting to a point of full acceptance at a much faster pace than they used to. And I think part of the amazement we have today is how fast our country went from not even considering this to making it a full-blown civil right.
No, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to interject there. We've been working on this for decades. I mean, some of the original even conversations started decades ago. So I think that this has been a movement that's been just as long as any other movement, if you really want to track it that far. But we've been working on this issue for a long period of time. We've been inching forward and then stepping back and stepping forward and stepping back, just like the president announced today. We've been working on this for decades, and I don't think we have made a thunderbolt stride forward in as far as equality in this situation, but it has not been a short fight, man.
It hasn't been short, but it has been comparatively short.
What, to like to the life of religion as it stands? Because so many things are comparatively short to 10,000 years of fairy tales. What I'm saying is that in the history of the country, if you're looking at the last 200 years, 25% of that history has been active movement on this front. I mean, I don't think that if you look at the last 5 decades of this fight that we've been working on. Now, we haven't been fighting every single day, and there are people that have been fighting every day in the conversations and in the lives of themselves and others, but it has not been a short, even in the span of our country's lifetime, which has been small in and of itself.
Well, certainly, as compared to, say, the racial equality movements, those had been fought a lot stronger and harder. Religious equality movements had been fought a lot stronger and longer. So, yeah, certainly it hasn't been easy, and it hasn't been, at a human scale short, but the phenomena is that these cycles...
Phenomena. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Buck, we've been drinking.
Okay. So, yeah, it's a very great step, and it's a very great day. And, anything that I may have been saying about the Constitution isn't necessarily built for giving civil rights, or this movement has come along somewhat quickly. I'm just putting things in balance. I would prefer, of course, all sorts of more civil rights, and I'd like to get. I actually think the government really shouldn't be involved in marriage at all, because I think it's a somewhat not kosher institution. Kosher, of course, in the secular sense.
That actually leads me into a question. How long do you think it is before polyamorous relationships are honored, and something along those lines?
I'm not sure. It was brought up earlier today by conservatives in the form of this statement. Well, what's going to stop more than one person from wanting to get married to more than one person? Blah 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 blah. No. I mean, you're right. I mean, the polyamorousness. Probably a better way to say that. But polyamorous behavior is normal, and I don't know how long it's going to be before that is recognized. It's still illegal in many states, but I think that's one of the next adventures that we're going to be partaking on as a society, to recognize that.
Yeah, Buck and I talked about this a little bit before. I don't remember the whole conversation, but I think Buck was leading down this line. That's why I wanted to mention it. Buck, do you want to touch on that, kind of like what your feelings are about where marriage should be going?
Yeah, it is. It would be tough to find a government-sanctioned way for polyamory to be legally recognized, because the government's role in marriage, outside of any bullshit morals that they have, is to consecrate a contract, a marriage contract. And certainly the legal marriage contracts today would need significant, a total rewriting in order to be compatible with that.
I think that the problem isn't with... I think the problem is how we look at marriage. We need to take out the contract legality of marriage altogether, and I think that'll fix some of that problem.
Yeah, I think that's where Buck was leading it. Do I remember correctly? To sum it up, basically, we should just do away with it, right?
We should. I think
Yes.
that if you want someone to be able to make decisions on your behalf, you should get a power of attorney.
Exactly.
Sure.
Or just do away with the whole fucking thing, Well, yeah, I guess powers of attorney for hospitals and death and stuff like that.
And banking.
Right. And certainly it would be best in the long run to get the government entirely out of marriage, because there's no good reason, and they talk about this in today's decision. The marriage has changed a lot over the years, not just in moral ways, but they're no longer arranged. They're no longer distributions of property, and those were the main reasons why the government had to get involved in it.
You're true. You're 100. Yeah, you're true. You're 100% correct. The property and contract law has always been an issue. There are several states just in the South that are a combined or divisive property state, to where you're married and your partner is automatically granted 50%, which I don't think should be a thing anyways. I think that should be part of a prenuptial agreement, a legal contract outside of the bond of marriage, which I don't think should even be a legal bond to begin with. I hope I didn't segment your point. I was just trying to being even keeled here. I don't want to digress too far off of the regular topic that we were talking about, some of the progresses that we've made in general. But I do agree that property law is the reason why marriage has been the way it's been.
Absolutely. So, in terms of my closing comments on this, good day for equality right now, and gotta keep moving forward on it.
Right, and it's and like our atheists. Hold on, Moose Gal has something else. Why do you guys think people like Brian Fisher have a voice in America? Because, unfortunately, because freedom of speech, I guess. It makes me angry, the things he tweeted. Unfortunately, he has that right. I'm not going to say I wish he didn't, because that's part of the fundamental principles of America. But I first heard of Brian from listening to the YouTube channel called Secular Talk. Secular Talk and Secular TV are two channels that are really cool. Yes, 70% of America is Christian, and conservatives haven't died off yet. Yeah, that's one thing. But
that was me. That was me.
Yeah, we do. That was Matt under Fixer Fab. But it is because of freedom of speech. It is because inherently we have a system that allows everyone to voice their opinion equally, which is a productive system that does allow us to move forward. However, it does allow those spitefully hateful individuals to continue to spread their fear-mongering and hate-mongering. But I'd like to think that with things like today, decisions and conclusions like today, that we are moving away from that, and that we are pushing ourselves forward to the point where these people continue to talk, but their voice is not only smaller, but it's no longer respected. In that case, the secular America community needs a louder voice. And that's what we're doing, actually, Moose Gal, is that individuals like yourself, individuals like us, people bigger than us that have louder voices, people don't like the term the atheist community or the YouTube atheist community, but there are some of us that are really loud and they get your attention, and then there are others that are more even keel, so to speak, more calm, that kind of appeal to your better nature, and they really speak to yourself, like Christy Winters. Last week we were talking about Dr. Winters. She's more of the even keel type. She's the one that myself and Neckbeard Nation and Guy in a Wheelchair, there's Matt and Buck in Neckbeard Nation, and there's Guy in a Wheelchair and myself, the belligerent atheist. We are the louder ones that get your attention and pull you off from what you're normally doing. And then there are people like Dr. Winters that kind of appeal to your better nature and kind of reason with your sensibilities.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on that just really quick. It was in one of the last nonprofits podcasts I was listening to. They made they made this comment. I think it was Jeff D. made a comment that okay, first of all, this is in reference to what she was saying, that we need more loud secular voices out there, and that's why we are doing this. We can afford to be as out as we are, So we understand that we need to help our community by showing ourselves and being out there. So they mentioned this on the nonprofits, and they kind of said, like, they may, I wish I knew the exact quote, but they said basically, it wasn't all of them, it was one of them. I'm pretty sure it was Jeff, but I probably got this wrong. But he said basically there shouldn't be as many of us out there because we're not all doing it right, or I don't know, it kind of sounded like you're saying we're not good enough. I don't know. I think the more of us being out there and making these videos, it can only be better, you know, because it shows us, you know.
Exactly.
I didn't agree with the comment. I wish I knew I could quote it, but yeah, I wasn't prepared for this to come up.
Right, and I've had people ask me why I continue to make videos even though some of my content is equal to others. It's not just that I have my own opinion, and I see Mooscal that you said, however, I'm only out online, but it's not just that I have my own opinion about something. We're increasing a footprint, you know. So Jacqueline Glenn might make a video on marriage equality, but if someone happened to happens to type in the word atheist, they might see the Belligerent Atheist channel. They might see the Heretic Clerics. If someone types in the word cleric and talks about equality, or they're looking for clergy and marriage equality, they might see this video pop up, and it might give them a little bit of insight into a different part of the community. But it's all about increasing the footprint, in my opinion. That YouTube, it's a community where we're showing people that there's more than one way, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's the big name actors who are in the big blockbuster hits, but then it goes down the line. There's the B movies, then there's the actors who are in plays, then there's the guy on the street corner playing guitar. You know what I mean? There's just there's any way you want to do it, you know.
There is, and we are a smorgasbord of individuals that cover we're a highly faceted community that cover a wide range of topics, and we all do it in different ways. So my channel is going to appeal more to the anti-theist community. That's just how it works. Now there might be other channels that appeal to other individuals, but I am going to assume that people who are angry might like my content a little bit better than people that would like Dr. Winter's channel, that's a little bit more calm, collected, and a little bit more cerebral than my content, which I would like to bring to our Atheist Spotlight. It's been too long. We've gone so far without mentioning them, but in light of the marriage equality ruling of today, I'd like to highlight some LGBT members of the community that have their own channels, and I will post links in the description of this video. But the amazing Atheist, he's one of the louder individuals that we're talking about that draws people in.
He would be the B.
Yeah, and then there's a Finite Atticus. Finite Atticus has a lot of great content. I love the tone of his voice. He has a really good tone to his voice. But, I mean, he does a lot of different graphics with his movies. His movies are more cinematic, I think, to me. In my opinion, his movies are very cinematic. And then there's Zinnia Jones. Those are 3 LGBT individuals that I will post the links to all their stuff in the description so that anyone who's still watching at this point can go check out their channels. And I also, on the Heretic Clerics channels, I will highlight them on the Atheist Spotlight section on the right-hand side, if anyone would like to comment on those right now. Any personal experiences, why they like them, or anything of that nature?
Oh, yeah. I started watching Zinnia a while ago. I actually haven't kept up on her newer stuff, but I thought it was a chick at first. I don't know, whatever. But I was like, oh man, I gotta check out this chick, you know. So I started watching it, and her style is like just no. Well, this was a while ago. I haven't kept up on her stuff, but it's just like no. It's just like she's kind of monotone and stuff, but I kind of like it. It's like no frills. It's just she just tells the story, and I don't know, it's just for some reason her voice is like monotone and like hypnotizing to me. I don't know if that's good.
It reminds me of Bionic Dance almost, which is one person I left out. The Amazing Atheist, Zinnia Jones, and Bionic Dance.
That's what I was gonna say. Didn't we have an L in there? Or?
Yeah, we did. We did have an L. It was Bionic Dance, but she's kind of monotone too, but she gets really passionate. She's passionately monotone, I guess. But I like her content too. She's a little bit. She does she's closer to my type of content, my side of the community. But I like I haven't really gotten into Zinnia much. I've watched Finite, Amazing Atheist, and Bionic Dance, of course. I've watched those three, but I haven't gotten into Zinnia. I'm really looking forward to watching her now that you've brought her up. I'm really excited. So
it's probably been like a year since I watched it. I don't know what happened. I must have accidentally unsubscribed or something, but yeah.
I don't know. I have a lot of subscriptions too, man. I have like 30 or 40 subscriptions on my channel, so I can see where you could get lost in the sauce.
Yeah, and then add that to editing our own videos and watching our own videos 100 times a day. It's like,
yeah. Well, I try not to watch any of my videos more than twice. But I think that's just because I'm like, meh, whatever. My viewers will figure it out. That's probably why I don't have so many viewers. But that's neither here nor there.
I watch my videos and jerk off to myself. What is that called?
I don't think that's LGBTI or Q. I think that's just narcissistic, man. I think that just means you're pedantic.
All right, we'll throw that in there. Throw that in there.
Throw a P. We'll make it the P for pedantic.
There you go.
Well, considering our last video, I can see why.
Yeah. Did you see? You got to see it, BA. You got to at least see our first skit. Buck and I fell in love in our last video. So.
Oh, that's kind of cute. All right. Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to check it out, man. I'm gonna check it out. All right. So if you guys don't have any more closing comments, I think we're probably about time to wrap it up. What do you guys think?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks a lot, Moose Gal, for talking to us in the chat, and maybe we'll feature you one of these times on the spotlight if you haven't got enough attention already.
Right. Oh, Buck is actually... Hold on, make some noise, Buck, so we can get your video up there so everyone can see your cat.
Oh, it's a kitty.
This is Charlotte. This is my new little kitty.
Oh.
He's gonna fuck that cat.
Man, that's horrible.
No, dude, it's from a movie. It's
man.
from a movie. Shakes the Clown, dude. You gotta see it. Dude.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that we need to highlight it on our show. Okay, you know what? I think we've gone too far. I think we've gone too far. I think that's the line. All right, everyone. I want to thank you for tuning into the Heretic Clerics tonight and joining us as we talk about marriage equality. Again, thanks to Muscal. Thank you to the Amazing Atheist, Finite Atticus, Nia Jones, and Bionic Dance. And thank you to everyone who's helped move this forward. And thank you for SCOTUS for the